Hi all, welcome back to Tallulah Talks. That's me. And today's Saturday, which means it is Saturday's haunting hour. And today is I find it quite a creepy story. And we're going to delve into the true story of Annabelle. Everyone mostly knows who Annabelle is, but if you don't, if you follow like the Warrens and the movies, the Conjuring universe, they have a few movies that are about Annabelle doll. And these are all actually based on the true story of a doll called Annabelle. So let's get into it. Book of Stories. So Ed and Lorraine Warren, renowned paranormal investigators, received a call from a pastor who relayed a message from a different priest about this haunted doll and that had actually attacked one of the members of this small group. It was two nurses that had contacted what they believed to be a human spirit, and one of their friends was attacked. This was one of the girl's boyfriends as well. He wasn't seriously injured, however, the activity within the nurse's home was getting a lot worse. The pastor asked the Warrens to investigate, and Ed immediately accepted the referral. The priest gave Ed a number to phone, and immediately once that call ended, he then phoned that number, which led him to a conversation with these nurses. After speaking with one of the young girls, Ed knew the problem straight away, told them to hang tight and that he was on his way. It took over an hour to reach this address. Now, whether the spirit had anything to do with this, we're unsure. The traffic was pretty light, so it's unsure why it took them so long to get to the house, but eventually they did get there. Ed carried in a tape recorder, a camera, and some sort of like black bag. And he heard the bolts unsnap and the door was opened by a young nurse called Deirdre. Ed and Lorraine introduced themselves and were immediately ushered into the home. The Warrens were then led through the living room and into the kitchen, where they also found a young man named Cal and the other nurse who was named Lara, and Cal was also this nurse's boyfriend. When the Warrens went into the kitchen to meet these two, they were very quiet, very just not relaxed, very uncomfortable, it seemed. It seemed they just didn't want to be in the house, and after what you're away to hear, I do not blame them. Ed and Lorraine took a seat at the table. Ed then put a cassette into the recorder and began recording the interview that they exchanged. Ed asked the young girls to tell the story from the very beginning. So, in the beginning, they explained that there were two different stories. So there's the story of Annabelle the doll, and there's the story of the attack that happened on their friend Cal. The Warrens asked who Annabelle was, and Lara explains that she's a doll that belonged to her friend Deirdre. Lorraine then asks Deirdre, like, is this doll, does it seem alive? And Deirdre explains that Annabelle moves around the house and she moves into different positions as well. So what they meant by this was usually they would leave Annabelle in Deirdre's bedroom. They would come home at night and sometimes Annabelle would be sitting on the couch. She would be sitting by the front door, and even if she had remained in the room, she would be in a totally different position to what Deirdre had left her in. And at one point, when Annabelle, they had come in, Annabelle was at the door, Annabelle was actually kneeling. Now, Annabelle, unlike in the movies, is just like a Raggedy Ann doll, and so it's not really possible for them to like physically kneel the doll. Lara states, Ed basically asks where the doll is, and Lara states that the doll is currently in the living room and points over. Ed goes to inspect the doll, and it is basically just described as a really big Raggedy Ann doll with black eyes. Deirdre explains that the doll was a gift from her mum, and that they had noticed the activity a year prior to where they were now. The doll, like I've just said, appeared to move around, move into different positions, and originally it seemed very innocent. It didn't seem like the doll was out to hurt anyone. It was just moving around. Yeah, so in one position, it would be in another position, and it's also to note that Annabelle would actually leave the girls little notes. The handwriting looked to be of that of like a young child, and the notes would constantly say "help us" or "help Cal," which they found a bit odd. And the doll also wrote on parchment paper, but when the girls searched the apartment, they could not find any paper that resembled what these notes were written on. They then got in touch with a medium, and the medium had told them that a young girl had come through, that her name was Annabelle Higgins, and that before the apartments were built, she remembers playing in the field, and the young girl basically asks permission to move into or possess the doll. And they felt very sorry for the little girl. They believed they were compassionate, and so they said yes to the spirit moving into the doll. Ed was then confused by this, and he again said, like, so you mean that, you know, the spirit meant to possess the doll? And the young girl replied yes. What they again experienced seemed harmless. The doll didn't really do much, and they actually referred to the doll as Annabelle. Ed then asked if the nurses had seen any spirits of little girls, and the girls said no, they had not seen anything, but they did recall one time that a statue from somewhere in the house, they physically saw it lift, float, and then drop to the floor. And the nurses believed this to be completely harmless. Nothing serious or insidious or anything like that had happened thus far. But Cal then kind of butted in and said that he had never liked the doll, and he felt that the doll was dangerous and that the doll did not like him back. He explained that the doll gave him recurring nightmares, and when Cal was in a deep sleep, he said that he, in his dream, saw himself wake up and saw Annabelle, this Raggedy Ann doll, with one hand either side of his neck and strangling him. And he woke up to feel that strangling sensation. It's like he was gasping for breath. The physical attack that happened, that wasn't in the dream, this was a very real physical attack, happened on a separate night when Cal was in the apartment with Lara, his girlfriend. And this was around 10-11 p.m. at night. And basically, they both had heard like a loud bang coming from Deirdre's bedroom, and they believed it to be a burglar. So Cal had kind of snuck around to the room, waited outside the door, waited for the noise to stop, and slowly just opened the door to see what was what. The only thing that he saw was the doll on the floor, and as Cal got close to kind of, I guess, move the doll, put it somewhere, as he got close to the doll, behind him he felt a presence, and all of a sudden he started screaming in pain, and Lara came through, and 7 scratches, quite deep, appeared on his back. His shirt was all bloody. It was a lot of blood, but within seconds those marks disappeared. There was no evidence of them. Like I said, wounds healed almost immediately, and they then contacted the local priest. They had been to the medium, and I guess they actually just wanted help in getting rid of this spirit. They all told the priest the story, and this scared not only them, but it scared the priest, and he said that he would contact someone higher up. And this was then the pastor that called Ed and Lorraine Warren. The nurses then decided that they were going to move into a different apartment. They didn't want to be in that apartment anymore. But Ed actually explained that that wouldn't work. The nurses were quite confused by this, so Ed basically explained that because they had, from the beginning, interacted with this spirit, the spirit was now attached to them. So he explained that their mistake was interacting with the spirit, then getting the medium involved, to which the spirit lied and said that it was a little girl. And their third mistake was allowing the spirit to not possess the doll, but to, I guess that's what they thought was happening, but spirits can't actually possess objects. And that was a very big mistake because it made the spirit that much stronger. And it was actually a demonic spirit. It was not the spirit of a little girl. Ed states that they can help and that they were going to call a father to perform an exorcism and a blessing of the house. They also explained that the girls had made these mistakes, but they were just normal mistakes that anyone could make. The exorcism was conducted. They blessed the house. They blessed the young girls and Cal. And then the Warrens decided to take the doll home and put it in there. If you watch the movies, the Warrens in real life have a room with everything that they have collected over the years that caused possession and any sort of spiritual activity. On their way home, however, Lorraine could feel a very, very dark presence within the doll. The doll did not like that they were taking it away, and they were actually in a very near traffic accident. And when they got home with the doll, they put it in their room of haunted objects, and the doll would move around the house constantly, just like it did with the nurses. And eventually Ed and Lorraine Warren put this doll in a cabinet. So like what you see in the movie, the doll's just in a cabinet, it's locked, and it's also blessed. The room of the actual haunted objects gets blessed twice a month. And it's actually also said that when people would come and visit, people would kind of try and antagonize Annabelle, and they would like tap on the glass and make fun of the doll. And on one occasion, I believe there was actually a very fatal accident for a young man who had done this on the way home, and I'm positive he actually died from his injuries. And that is the true story of Annabelle. That's really creepy. So if you ever go and visit the Warrens museum, and if you ever see Annabelle, don't antagonize her. That's if you believe in this sort of thing. I definitely do.